UK security demands, DeepSeek's servers, and what not to do with your passwords. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Take Control Books, one of the very best sources of clear, concise information on not only Apple's various operating systems, but also key Apple and third-party utilities and more. Visit TakeControlBooks.com and start your library today. All right, so I thought this was going to be the big discussion of the evening, and we're now just getting to it. But the British government has secretly ordered Apple to create a worldwide iCloud backdoor. If you haven't read this, or if you haven't read about this, start with this article. Go pick up some others. But it is really, really interesting the way that the law has been crafted, so that, and you know, if this was such a secret order, I still want to know how it got out. But Apple can't tell you, me, the public, that they've been asked to do this. They can't tell you they haven't been asked to do this. They can't tell you if they are. They can't tell you if they aren't. They are completely hamstrung here as far as communications goes. So, and it apparently, if I'm understanding everything I've read correctly, it applies globally. So even though it's the UK, they have ordered Apple to basically create a backdoor that therefore could be opened up to everyone, or could be potentially exploited everywhere in the world for all Apple customers.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, there are two types of people that are having a very, very bad week this week. Number one, Apple's PR staff, because they're getting 1,000 questions about it from the press. And two, the British diplomatic corps, because you can bet money that they've been called in by other countries' ambassadors to explain this.
I was about to say Apple Legal's had a bad week too then. So
yeah.
You know, I was saying when I first read this is that what's the first rule about Fight Club?
No,
don't talk about Fight Club. Yeah. And that's the same thing here is, and you know, there's a clickbait type aura to this too. They can't talk about it. I don't know how the word got out, Chuck, as you said. So it's just, I can't imagine that you got to do something that's worldwide. We're telling you have to do it. And if you don't, you know, and if you tell anybody that we told you to do this, we're going to come beat you up and take your candy money, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, it says that the news came from people familiar with the matter. And I don't know, in the tech journalism business, we have a lot of fun making fun of people familiar with the matter. Mm-hmm. Because it may or may not actually be a real thing. It could just be somebody sent 9to5Mac or whoever else an email that said, "Oh, hey, my boss has just demanded this from Apple. You should write about it." I'm not saying that's what happened, but it has happened in the past. Not to 9to5Mac, not to. There was another outlet that got hit pretty hard by a leak that turned out to be completely false, just in the past year.
Barry, sorry, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. It's not working. Jeff, there are only two things that make me wonder about this, that kind of argue for the potential validity. The first one is that this seems to be very consistent with what the EU and the UK seem to have been doing, is trying to flex their muscles and you know, do this big privacy advocacy thing. And it just seems really strange that they would pick on Apple. And of course, you know, has the same thing been sent to Google or Microsoft? Or, well, of course, Microsoft is hackable anyway. But, you know, I don't know. It boggles my mind that we have this situation. And so again, if I'm understanding it, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the only way Apple could avoid this is to stop doing business in the UK.
Yeah. And okay, so to backpedal slightly, I don't doubt that the UK actually is trying to get Apple to do something like this. I don't really doubt it. I'm just presenting the possibility that it's not a real thing. But I mean, we've been here before. San Bernardino. It's not the first time. The difference here is that, according to this source, it's not just trying to break into one device, it's trying to gain access to everybody's iCloud account everywhere.
Yeah.
And think about it. The FBI, Apple really held the line on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And only a few weeks ago, we had a discussion here about the fact now that the U.S. government is advocating for end-to-end encryption because of the Chinese hacking situation.
Yep.
So they've done a complete reversal on everything, and now all of a sudden, the UK wants to get into the act of saying, "Well, just for us, just for the good guys, open this up."
Yeah, the problem with that is you can't just do it, because if one country is successful with this, Apple's going to have to open up a back door for everybody.
Yeah.
Marty and Eric both posted the same article in from the BBC News, and I don't know. Brittany Smith is in our chat room, and she said there's a BBC report too. It has a different angle. Marty, Eric, have you two read this this article? How does it spin things?
I'll let Eric speak first, so I can read the article.
I mean, it's kind of similar. There's a few extra little details. It mentions a Washington Post article that says that's where it was first reported, but then gives some additional background, like 2016 and where Apple resisted an order that was we talked about it already, but 2020 when they refused to unlock. So it gave a couple other cases. Reactions from a bunch of people basically saying if you ever got that through, everyone would just leave to a different platform, and then it would no longer be useful.
Yeah.
It just seems really I guess the problem with that, Eric, is that in the process destroys Apple's focus on privacy and our ability to take advantage of its products to keep our information private.
Well, I think the idea was it doesn't make any sense to put a hole in here because everyone would just switch to something else. So the request isn't as helpful as people might think. And as Marty said, it seems that the places where it normally comes up is, trying to protect kids from exploitation, and therefore wanting to monitor more information and grab stuff that is in the cloud somewhere in some user's account. And they keep trying different things with that too. Automatic scanning that doesn't scan correctly. And
I think the "let's protect the kids" statement is kind of red meat to throw out there, because who's going to disagree with that? But it doesn't mean it's not going to be used for all sorts of other efforts besides just protecting kids. And if they talked about all the other efforts that it could be used for, people, it wouldn't be a popular decision, because people are saying, hey, I don't have anything to do with kids, but they're getting into my wallet. They're getting into they could get into whatever I've done or said. So,
yeah, I mean, the whole protect the kids thing and terrorism. Those are the two that they always throw out. And yet, before we had email, before we had messaging, before we had all the online communication, the law enforcement was having to do their job with other tools.
Right.
And so, and look, Marty, you just said it. Who's going to disagree with wanting to protect the kids? Who's going to want to disagree with stopping terrorism? Sorry, Jeff.
No,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's a very, very similar discussion to the one we had when Apple was working on CSAM.
Mm-hmm.
And was going to build that into messages and photos. And, people, it did create a division because, I'm a father. I'm all about protecting kids. But I'm also all about protecting our rights against illegal search and seizure. And that put me in a difficult position trying to formulate my own position on it. But it comes down to, okay, if you put this technology in place and you say it's to prevent sexual abuse or child exploitation, what happens when a dictator gets a hold of that same technology and modifies it to look for other things? There has to be a better way to protect the kids without putting the liberty of an entire country or the entire world at risk.
It feels like we need to have the discussion again about a backdoor for one is a backdoor for everyone.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in your home, whether you have the keys or not, that is a backdoor as opposed to a cement wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot harder to get through a cement wall, but if the backdoor is there, it can be jimmied, pried, broken down, kicked in, and the same is true here. There is no way to do it just for the good guys. And we've also had this discussion that we're not going to do politics here, but if you are party A and your party is in the White House and you're comfortable giving it to party A, you've given it to the White House. And so who's to say that then next election party B doesn't take over the White House and then they have access to it?
Right.
Or party C, maybe, some off the wall group or individual gets in there and then they can utilize it.
It's an extremely slippery slope.
Yeah. Marty, you were quoting some things from the article.
Yeah. I think the most significant statement from the article is the tech giant can appeal against the government's demand, but cannot delay implementing the ruling during the process, even if it's eventually overturned, according to the legislation. So, Apple can stand on its right to protect privacy, but if the legislation is there, it has to act on the legislation while it's appealing the legislation. So appeals don't stop it, like in our court system.
Is there no way to get an injunction the way we do here in the States? Does anybody know?
I didn't pass the bar in the UK, so
Yeah, me
I
either.
can't really tell you.
Yeah. This is just one to pay attention to. I mean,
Yeah.
we talk a lot about security here, but it is one to pay attention to because unfortunately though, if it applies to Apple, it's going to apply to Google and it's going to apply then to everyone. It's just a matter of the UK getting around to it. And so then there is no more privacy unless you put it on paper and lock it away in a safe deposit box. So
now, there is some good news in that, you wouldn't have people continuing to try to do this, except that evidently the security baseline seems to be fairly good.
elaborate on that, Eric.
Well, why would anyone go to the effort of passing laws like this to get a backdoor unless they actually need to have a backdoor because they're having problems getting into Apple devices?
Okay, good point. Good point. Meanwhile, we have our government encouraging us to use end-to-end encryption from companies like Apple. So I feel like the next one sort of goes in with this. And that is, there were some questions, and we talked about DeepSeek last week. In fact, I think the last 2 weeks. But now we're seeing that, and this comes from Ars Technica, DeepSeek iOS app sends data unencrypted to ByteDance-controlled servers.
Yeah, let's see how long this takes now to get banned from the U.S.
Well, I think, do I have it right, Ben? I think it was already removed from the Italian App Store. I think NASA banned it. Another government agency banned it as well, and I can't remember now who.
That's a good question, but if they are affiliated with ByteDance, that could be handled under the same law that banned TikTok.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
But am I remembering this correctly? That one of the selling points of DeepSeek originally, when it sort of came into the public zeitgeist, was that the data was not being sent to China; that was being kept on DeepSeek servers in the U.S. I'd swear I read that somewhere.
Well, it's open source and it's available for people to incorporate it into whatever kind of AI engine they want to. Now, I don't know enough about it to say, does it go back and knock on the DeepSeek servers back in China or wherever it is, back in China in the process, or if it's something that can be contained. I see Ben nodding his head.
Yeah. Again, it's another thing, but you do need to pay attention to this. Look, if you're just asking it, to tell you what colors go with what colors, so when you get dressed tomorrow morning, that's probably not a big deal. But if you're giving it any kind of substantive queries that have anything to do with your personal information, your personal life, or your business, you may want to think twice about just which one of these you're using and what information you are potentially giving it.
Yeah.
So consider that almost a PSA, because I don't know how, it seems like the landscape changes every minute. 1 minute they say one thing, 1 minute somebody else publishes something that said, no, that's not really what's true. I don't know, but I was on a call today that someone said that we were having a discussion about a project, and they said they had 3 different search or large language models open on their laptop, putting things in to try to add to the project, which is, that's fine. But which ones were they, and what were they revealing?
Yeah. How would they know if that's secure or not?
That's the question.
Yeah.
And I mean, DeepSeek saying one thing, I mean, we know it already is a project that has certain biases to the PRC. I mean, there does have to be that in mind.
No, but corporate companies are not going to be allowing this service to be available at all on their networks. I can guarantee that. And I'm sure Webb, you can weigh into that. But
no, I was sitting here wondering if I wanted to comment in. Yeah, it would be
in general terms,
we have a stern talk, if not termination, for
Mhm.
doing this, because the employee agreement or the employee handbook says specifically you can't use large language models for corporate use.
Right.
Period.
But I mean, I think a lot of companies probably are being smart and blocking When they knew this came out and it's blocked. I mean, I don't want to go down that road for you, but I'm just
and we
speaking
use
in general
Copilot,
terms.
so
Yeah, we use Copilot too, and I'm talking in general terms here. But there's limitations to Copilot too. You go out to the web, it's going to be something that is limited what you can do.
Yes. Plus, I mean, Microsoft is a business focused company, so they are going to offer certain corporate versions of Copilot.
Well, I mean, last week we had an article that said that DeepSeek is coming to Copilot. So, for what that's worth. Yeah, well,
not if this is the case. If this article is the case,
is that I have not downloaded that app. I don't think is it available in iOS in the US?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It is, okay. I don't want to go anywhere near it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Webb, I want to ask you, though, you said absolutely no corporate use. So how absolute is absolute? Well, I mean, if
it's in the employee handbook, the employees sign off on that they're going to follow these rules. So,
okay. So
now, are you getting into enforcement? How do we enforce it?
No, I don't want to get into that, but I want to get into. I guess what I'm asking is, if you're having a company picnic, and I'm in charge of the company picnic, and I think I'm just going to have ChatGPT write up the best picnic description ever. Are you going to come down on me for that? Is that a use of it? Is that a corporate use of the large language model?
Are you using a corporate device? Are you on the corporate network? Are you sharing any corporate information? If you're at a social event, if you're sitting in a bar and you're sitting in the bar having a cocktail with a friend, and you want to, I don't know, ask ChatGPT what's the best daiquiri menu. You can do that through Google too, for that matter. So, but yeah, we're pretty hardcore on this issue, and the reason why is by the nature of the business that I'm in, that I contain a lot of confidential, personal, financial information on my clients, and they don't want that out, and and so it brings up the whole cybersecurity is probably the biggest threat to my organization. There's some other things too in the financial world about interest rates and remember, we're in the margin business between what we sell and what we earn. Some other technical things like that, but yeah, it's a pretty big issue, and we do a lot of things to lock everything down. So
I'm alone.
I'm not minimizing or at all, but I guess I was looking for, but you bring up a great point. Are you on corporate time? Are you on corporate device? Are you on corporate network? I mean, those are pretty big deals. Yeah, there you go.
Corporate network.
But it also sounds like you're concerned about the content that they're using potentially. I mean, if I took home a amortization table of clients or whatever, and took it home and ran it on my own computer, it wouldn't make it any less a violation of using corporate data on a public.
But if you're using anything that's defined as PII, personally identifiable information, that is a policyholder information, I don't care what you do with your own identification. But if you have somebody who's entrusted me, yeah, that's serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that, and that crosses over into healthcare. It crosses over into my field in terms of mental health and counseling. Want to stay away from all of that personal. I'm more concerned of some of the models and where the data is stored and who has access to that data. So, I mean, things like TikTok and DeepSeek kind of scare the hell out of me, and ByteDance, but there are other models that are run locally. I mean, even Apple Intelligence model, I think, has some containment issues in it and some security issues, protective security issues that make it seem like a model that I might want to use for generating concepts or the best cherry pie or whatever. But I'm certainly not going to dump personal identifying information in. I mean, even if they weren't doing it in hospitals, you work in a hospital, you can't look up information on somebody just because they're in the hospital. So access to personal information is a problem, whether you're using it using AI to do it or not. And controlling that access, it's really poor judgment on the part of the person who you've hired to be in that position that they'd be doing that. So
it kind of goes off to another realm we don't need to concentrate on. But I said on the show last week, Dave and I were talking about, I can't even use iCloud, which is so deeply integrated into the Apple ecosystem,
right?
And very conveniently so, I might add. But I can't even do corporately. I can't even do that either. So now I can use OneDrive because it's all
that's corporate
tied back in. Yeah.
And yet, if I heard you both right, Webb and Dave, you are using Copilot.
We use the corporate version, yeah.
We're still assessing it.
Okay, so that are you violating your own company policies?
No, because it's approved.
Yeah, it goes through approval process before we even get near it.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes through our universe before it goes out.
Right.
Okay.
AKA InfoSec.
Yeah. Lamp 1995 in the chat room said he suggests running the DeepSeek LLM locally instead of relying on the internet. And he said he's actually running it on a Raspberry Pi 5 with 16 gigs. It's very slow, but it works. So I didn't even know that you could, the DeepSeek could be run locally.
Yeah, the question is whether it's, well, there's a lot of questions with that, especially if you have to connect it to the internet at all.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions with all this stuff, Ben.
Yeah.
So,
and we still go back to 1995. We still go back to this article on the screen that the DeepSeek's going out to allegedly someone else's servers. So, so that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I mean, that's a really interesting
what he's
question.
doing.
So, yeah. And does your Raspberry Pi have access to the internet? Now, in the next comment, he says, if you're going to use any of the LLMs via the internet, then all sensitive data needs to be de-identified. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I'd want to be certain that I pulled the plug on that Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
The internet plug. The internet plug.
But at the same time, most people just aren't that smart.
Or they don't care. They don't see the danger yet.
Yeah.
One last thing for tonight. And this is from Lifehacker. And I'll let you all read it. But it's really interesting. Changing your passwords isn't the security measure you think it is. And this really struck me because I had a conversation with Joe Kissel a while back about one of his Take Control books about passwords. And he offered exactly the same advice, that just changing them isn't necessarily the best thing on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. That long, complex passwords, he's got a whole book about it, folks. So, takecontrolbooks.com, go check it out. But this is one of those that, and I know I'm one in the corporate world. I've got several accounts with several companies, and it's a royal pain that I have to change them, every 60 days, every 30 days. And you know what? I will confess that when that happens, I get frustrated and I just make it something simple, because I don't want to go through the whole process of, and I know, the Apple devices, and they've done a great job of trying to keep me from doing that. but at some point the human factor takes over, and it's just like, light bulb 7, fine, that matches, that does what you need, and next month it'll be 7 light bulb, fine, that get. So take a look at this. This is a really interesting article, and maybe go get Joe's book if you're even more interested.
Yeah, and let's be perfectly honest. When it comes to gaining access to a system from bad actors, social engineering is always going to be a hell of a lot easier than trying to crack a password.
Yeah, but don't overlook the danger of password cracking.
Yeah.
If somebody wants it bad enough.
Yep.
Everybody wants to take a good hard look at Webb's football files.
We're not that big.
Guys, this has been another one of those great discussions. I feel like that's been kind of all over the map, from something a little fun to something very serious. So thank you. This has been every Tuesday night. I was thinking this week, and sometimes I get emails about, that we have too much fun, or we're not serious enough, or we're too serious, and it's like, this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Hopefully we make you think. Hopefully we inform you a little bit. Hopefully we're entertaining. If not, we're entertaining ourselves. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, because nobody's making money off of this stuff anymore.
Exactly. So let's go around the room and find out where you are when you're not here, and then we'll head for the hills. David Ginsburg, thank you very much for being here and sharing your version of the corporate perspective. Where can folks find you?
Thanks as always. You could find me at In Touch with iOS, intouchwithios.com. I have to record the show this coming Saturday instead of Thursday because of a work commitment. So we'll have some fun doing a little bit of a weekend show here. And YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I'm here on MacVoices Live every Tuesday. I'm usually on the Mac Show with the British Tech Network on Fridays, not this week. And then you can find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon at DaveG65. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Pardon me. Thank you. Marty Jencius, are you headed back to Krypton, or is
No.
somewhere else?
You said, where do we go when we're not here? It's like I continue to exist when I'm not here.
I know.
But it's not like I stop living or stop existing or go back into the crypt. Jencius, Jencius at Blue Sky is where you can connect with me. Tuesday nights here, Thursdays or sometimes Saturdays with Dave on In Touch with iOS. And I've got podcasts that I do with Eric on Monday nights at 9:00 Eastern Time, Vision Profiles, and other podcasts you can find at thepodtalk.net.
Great. Thank you, Marty. Thank you. Eric Bolden, you and another bald eagle. I feel like, I don't know, we need to get you a shirt or something.
Or I need to grow hair, and then I won't keep going after bald eagles. So.
Then it's the red tail hawk. No, I don't even want to think about what that could mean.
Huh.
No, just
Yeah, let's not go there.
No, let's not go there. Where can they find you, Eric?
Yeah, Monday nights with Marty in virtual land. Vision on the Vision Profiles podcast. Tuesday it's here, of course. And otherwise, EA Bolden at techhub.social on Mastodon.
Great. Thanks so much, Eric. Ben Roethig, it was great to see you. Come back anytime that your work life permits. Where can folks connect with you?
Well, guys, you can find me at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. You can find my writings and ravings at roethigtech.com. On Thursdays, you can find me most Thursdays on In Touch with iOS of Dave Ginsburg. You can also find me occasionally on the British Tech Network, both the Big and Mac shows, Thursday and Friday. And of course, Tuesdays as work allows here on In Touch with iOS with Chuck Joyner.
That a new show?
Oh, duh. MacVoices Law.
You did it, Jeff Gamet. You did it, Jeff Gamet.
Yes. Join me with the In Touch with MacVoices show.
Yeah, there you go.
Ah, sounds interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Webb, thank you for joining us in your time of mourning. We really appreciate it. You can be consoled by the fact that Marty will be sending you a check for the advertisement for his podcast network. So that will help. Where can folks
hold
connect with you?
on. Let's see what I got right here. And I have
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Now I've got to send him a check
that's
too.
WEB BIXBY. So.
Where are you, Webb?
You can usually find me at the office, and it's Tuesdays it's with the CFO, Wednesdays it's with the you can find me at Blue Sky with Bixby WEB at Blue Sky.
Thank you, Webb. A lot of fun. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. We do this every Tuesday night, and we have at least as much fun, if not more, every Tuesday night. We'd love to have you join us. So if you're here now, come back next Tuesday. If you're hearing this later, put it on your calendar. I'm going to do a plug for my own show. We are still releasing CES interview shows, and we've had some great ones. We still have some great ones coming up, so don't overlook any of them. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.